Hello and welcome to Get Into Games on Air, a podcast about board games and the people who play them. Welcome to episode 13, Exploring Everdell. I'm Craig and joining me as always is Becky.
Hi.
Just before we start, this episode is kindly sponsored by the wonderful people at Rent, Shuffle and Roll. So head over to www.rentshuffleandroll.co.uk and use code GITG50, that's GITG50, to get 50% off your first month of their subscription service. Thanks, Rent, Shuffle and Roll. So yes, today is going to be a little bit of a different episode. We're going to do a deep dive into all things Everdell. We're going to talk Farshores. We're going to talk Everdells. We're going to talk Little Everdells. We're going to talk Belfair Everdells, Pearlbrook Everdells, Spirecrest Everdells, Mistlewood Everdells, New Leaf Everdells. All of the Everdells. Mistywood. We're going to talk spiders. We're going to talk crabs. We're going to talk beavers. We're going to talk squirrels. We're going to talk frog ambassadors. We're going to talk bunny rabbits on a trek. And the weather.
Everdell. Wandering the woods, gathering the stones, wearing in the path that leads to our home, laying down the floors, raising up the walls, working through the days, winter through to fall. And we'll play down where the grass is thick, from the river drink, see stars come out to meet us. When all I need to do is be near to you in the evening breeze by the Evertree. Farmer in the field, miner in the mud, king up in his castle with berry blue blood. Schoolhouse in a tree, chapel in a stream, we are side by side building up our dream. And we'll lay down where the grass is thick, from the river drink, see stars come out to meet us, when all I need to do is be here with you, neath the changing leaves of the Evertree.
Oh, so beautiful. Oh, wow, so beautiful. How can I possibly continue? Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So we're going to start things up with the base game. I mean, we're going to go straight into Everdell. There's a lot to unpack. So it's going to be a slightly different episode this week. But yeah, for you, those of you, most people know Everdell. I think if you're in the hobby, most people enjoy it, or it's the most popular, unpopular opinion that is online, because you'll always hear people go, my unpopular opinion is, I don't like Everdell, even though that seems to be most people's unpopular opinion. And how many unpopular opinions do you need before it becomes just a popular opinion? I don't understand. I don't know.
You're not selling it.
I'm not. I know I'm not. I'm not a shop.
No,
but you can rent it through Rent Shuffle. Some people don't, and that's fine.
But you started there.
But if people listen to episode, if people listen to episode whatever it was, this is my favourite board game of all time.
And that's where you should start.
All right, this is the best game of all time.
Yeah,
Everdell. Okay, so what is Everdell?
So Everdell is a tableau building.
It's a tableau building worker placement
where you have resources, or no, you go out to gain resources with your workers. You have limited workers, which increase throughout the season. So you work through winter, spring, summer, autumn. And as you work through the seasons, you get extra workers. So you start with 2. Then you get another one in the spring, and you get a couple more each of the other seasons.
Yeah, another one.
You are building out a tableau of 15 cards, 15 beautiful cards with lovely artwork.
Yes.
And trying to make the best combinations of cards to gain the most resources and ultimately the most points.
Yes. Yeah, the stunning artwork from Andrew Bosley that everyone knows. I think everyone is in agreement that it's probably one of the best artists in board games, and probably one of the games with the best art in all of the board games. And James Wilson, the designer, and his wife just created this amazing world that you just are drawn in. So this, for me, this game, and the reason it is my number one is just because you're just drawn into building this beautiful city, this tableau, this world of critters and colourful characters to bring in to get loads of points, and it just draws me in. And like mechanically, I love worker placement games. I love tableau building. Being able to have cards, and the cards have powers, and they combo together so well as well. The more of the expansions that you add, the more those cards play off each other really well and much better. So yeah, we're getting to that.
I think also the resources that you work to gain are beautifully made.
Yeah.
Like the berries are actually properly squishy. The twigs look like twigs. The resin's like a nice orange gem type thing. And the pebbles are flat grey stones, but they're like polished. I mean, it looks
production,
slick.
yeah, with the Evertree itself, the big monolith that's in the board. It's the one thing that always stands out. There's an enormous tree in the middle of the board.
Yeah. So in base Everdell, you have basic events that you're working towards, and on the board there are exclusive spots that only one person can go to, and there are shared spots. So you are vying for the best spots, the most lucrative spots where you can get the most resources.
Yeah, prime locations where your berries, your twigs, your pebbles, especially one of the most difficult resources to kind of gather.
Acquire. We've got the collector's edition. So in that we got some metal coins rather than cardboard token point coins. We also got the rat workers and some wooden occupied tokens. So at the bottom of the card there's a circle with an animal that is required for the construction can go into the construction building, and you can acquire one of those for free, and you put a wooden occupied token to show that you have used that.
It's like a little door.
They are cardboard tokens in the ordinary version, and we have wooden thicker tokens. They're nice. It also came with a deluxe 8-sided dice. I'm not sure what was the difference between the normal 8-sided dice.
I think it was just little green dice.
And some legendary cards. And there is a solo mode where you can have Rugwort, who is a rat, I believe.
He is the rat, yeah.
And he blocks slots each season, so you can't go to some of the better slots. He collects meadow cards, and he's trying to work towards the basic events as well. So if you want a way of playing solo.
And I think I would have thought you probably can play it with 2 players.
And there are different... From my understanding, we've never played the solo version, but there are 3 different versions in the base game of how you can play with Rugwort over the course of 3 years. So, it's good. The base game is just fine by itself.
Absolutely.
I think we'll rate them at the end.
At the end, we're going to rate. Yeah, we're going to rate the games, the Everdells, in a list, and then we'll also rate our ordering of expansions as well to see what we think. Ones that are the best to get if you are thinking of wanting to upgrade your Everdell experience, ones that you probably could give a miss to.
I would say that as well as being an immersive game, like when you set it up, you feel like you are in Everdell. There is like some lore and stories that are in the like instruction manuals kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, for example, in Everdell, the base game, there's the tale of the standing stones as told by Poe, the legendary storyteller. I'll just read a little bit. Long ago and far away in the land of Gildan, a young mouse gazed at distant mountains and wondered what lay beyond. His was a life of hardship and turmoil, as was true for many a critter during those darker times. There was nary a drop of honey or nibble or blueberry to be found, as any and every available provision had been used in the Serpent War, when brave critters gathered together to fend off the serpents of the northern wilds. Obviously it goes on, but it helps to immerse yourself in that kind of
there's
world.
a lot of story being created and crafted really well with the story in itself.
So, shall we go on to expansion?
Yeah. So the expansions are Belfair, Spirecrest, Pearlbrook, New Leaf, and Mistwood. So where should we start?
Let's start with Belfair, shall we?
Yep.
So Belfair adds player boards.
Nice. Yeah.
Which are quite nice because they allow you to place your resources on there. They're just a sort of an L-shaped board set in the scenery of Everdell.
The city. I quite like them because they just set like a perfect L shape, as you said, and you can fit your town in there, and it just makes it neat where you can keep your resources, keep your critters, that sort of stuff. The game is a bit of a table hog, so having those when you've got that higher player count game.
Yeah, I think for 2 players it's fine, but 4 players, 6 players, you're not going to want to get them out because there's not going to be enough room.
Yeah.
However, I did like playing as the frogs and putting the little frogs next to the little house on the board. And it looks really cool. It also removes the tree and adds a different board at the back.
It's a bit sacrilegious removing the tree from Everdell when the main thing of Everdell is the Evertree itself. Yeah. But it's...
I suppose it's good for people who don't want to keep... our tree it doesn't go back in the box, but I suppose if you're one of those people who puts the tree back in the box, it saves you having to get it out. All that.
Yeah, the reason ours doesn't go, we haven't got the wooden one. The reason ours doesn't is the cardboard one. That's the thing. When you take that cardboard tree apart and put it back together a million times, it breaks. It won't survive. That's why there is a wooden one available. We haven't got it yet. And that's why it sits on our Calyx with our games.
Yeah. But if you do not want to use the board and you still want to use the tree, you can add the market tile from the Belfair expansion because they've made a tile of it that you can put on the
main board.
Yeah. So the market allows you to gain goods. So it's another space where you can go and gain those goods. There is often a good and some goods and some cards, which is quite nice. And then you move the token to the other side of the market, which then becomes the trade side. You need to give in those resources in order to get in order to exchange for a different type of resource and then get some points, I think.
Yeah. It's quite a nice way, especially with a lot of the games. Sometimes you get these really tight, especially with high player counts, it's really tight to get resources. And the market is an open area where you can go in and get goods and trades.
You can only have one of your critters in there at a time.
Yes.
But you can go in there if somebody's already gone in there. So that's quite nice.
Exactly.
It adds some Garland awards, which are like public objectives. They enable you to gain for the most amount of something in...
first and second place, like of a specific like resource or a specific sort of type of critter or like colour. Yeah.
It adds player power cards. So there's some pretty cool player power cards.
Yeah, so like the otters have wood can be used as any other resource. Mm-hmm. Pigs from
they get all the farms.
Yeah, pigs from Mistwood are overpowered. You take all the farms out of the deck.
I didn't understand.
And they gain. They don't. They have all the original farms because when you have Mistwood, which we'll get into, there are new farms.
I don't think it said original farms. It just said take all the farms.
So they get all the farms, and they turn a new one over every time.
If they want to, they can.
If they want, it's
they get paid for having the farms
because the pigs are farmers. The pig farmers. No.
It also brings some more critters. So I think each expansion gives you 4 or 5 different critters. Yeah. So in Belfair you get cardinals, toads. No, you get 2 in Belfair, but in some of the others you get 4 or 5.
Others, yeah.
So you get the cardinals and the toads and the frog ambassadors that go with the pearl
and the rabbits as well. Yeah, that kind of thing.
And then what I quite liked is in the back of the Belfair instruction manual, there's a little law for celebrating 100 years because this is why they're having, I guess,
all the celebrations and the events that you're getting. Yeah, it's 100 years of.
So they've documented the 100 years with the I don't know, the event that was the most maybe
The biggest event of the year.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. So they've got things like in year 14, the Pebble Mine goes into production. In year 17, the Everdell Skirball League was founded, and the Green Sox won first championship 5-4 over the Stars. We've got the Trade Road open through Spirecrest Mountains in year 24. In year 52, coffee is discovered. Took a long time for them to discover coffee.
How did they survive?
I know. Year 73, Rugwort attempts to overthrow the throne, but is thwarted.
Oh, no.
And then in year 87, Rugwort attempted to overthrow the throne, but was thwarted as well. And in the year 100, King North hosts the Bell Fair to celebrate 100 years since the founding of Everdell. But it's just another way of, like, just getting you
Story
into
building.
that. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, that was everything that comes in Bell. Belfair's quite good. Belfair's quite modular, I find, as an expansion. Lots of bits that you can just choose to add. You could just play the base game with the asymmetrical powers. Just play it with the market.
Yeah.
Play it with the market and the Garlander Wars.
With most of the expansions, you can mix and match.
Yeah, I think there's one, which will probably be the next one that we come on to, is probably the one that when you just put it in, you put it in. That's it. You use what it has. You can't add bits to. But anyway, we'll get on to that. That's
Where are you going next then?
Pearlbrook.
Okay. So Pearlbrook adds the river. And what is really cool about the expansions is the board is circular, and then all the expansions add on to the board on either side or beneath or above, so that
they continue the picture.
They do
perfectly,
yes,
and they continue the color perfectly.
Yeah.
There's no darker shades. Yeah. There's no adding the structure board viticulture, and it's a slightly different shade of green, so it doesn't really match. I'm looking at you, viticulture. I'm looking at you.
So it adds the river board. It adds, you can then play as platypus, axolotls, otters, or starlings. It provides wonders, which are quite nice cardboard structures.
Yeah, wonders replace events, basic events. Yeah, you take off the basic events and you play the wonders in their place because they cost where you can. They cover up they go the spaces where they are.
I thought you could have both.
You can have both. You can choose to have two rather than all four. You don't need to play all four, but you can play. So the wonders take over the basic events, but they are crazy points.
Yeah, you need a lot of resources though to buy them.
Yeah, resource heavy.
The really nice thing, I think, that's really important, especially when you're playing a higher player count game that Pearlbrook offers, is the signs that say open and close. So if you've got a card that allows other people to play in it, even though it's in your city, it's a nice way of showing that it's open.
Yeah, so you can see across the table without having to go, what cards have you got? Have you got an in? I really want to get a benefit on playing a card, but have you got a pub, or have you got a pub, or have you got a pub? Who's got a pub? You can actually see that.
It adds a new resource, which is pearls, which your frog ambassador is trying to collect.
Yes.
There are mini cards called adornments. You get 2 of them at the start of the game, and you can activate them as your action on a turn. So that's an extra way of getting resources or a different kind of power.
Yeah, pearls are worth points, aren't they? They're worth multiple points at the end of the game.
And you have this frog ambassador that's the only critter that's allowed to go across
in the water
to get to the pearls and
so
river
goes
destinations.
Across, and you turn over these nice cards, and these cards have got like specific water folk that you'll meet to be able to gain benefits based on cards you've got again, which is very cool. Just changes things up again. Changes the game up. A lot of people really enjoy it. I think it's one of the ones that I do enjoy it, but it is, like I said, it's one of those ones you kind of add just a big chunk of the board to add, and I think it probably plays better with more than just 2. But we'll get
definitely.
there.
Can I read you some more lore?
You can read me some more lore. Tell me some
The
lore.
2nd of Hope Watch. The day began wet and dreary as we plodded along the mist-rise trail. I don't know how many hours we spent wandering through that shrouded valley, taking wrong turns and getting our fur positively soggy. We were in quite a sour mood after midday and decidedly lost. Rose scaled a tree to discover that we had only progressed a short distance from where we'd started. Chibs plopped to the ground and nearly started to weep. Then finally, a rare bit of luck. A cardinal spotted Rose and landed for a chat. We were overjoyed to discover that this fine bird was actually a trail guide. He generously offered to help us. In no time at all, it seemed, we were out of the mist and resting happily on a grassy knoll at the other side. We told the trail guide of our quest, and he suggested that we seek out a famed mountaineer of the area, who he said frequented a nearby traveller's inn.
Is there any lore in the Pearlbrook book? That's the Spycrest book.
No.
We've ruined it.
Oh, no.
But yeah. That was a lovely bit of lore, though.
Well.
We're going to get onto that anyway.
Spycrest.
Because we've got nothing else to say about Pearlbrook. Pearlbrook is frogs, water, pearls.
I'm sorry.
And brooks.
I got
liked it.
so involved in
Yeah.
But anyway, it's nice lore.
But that's it. In the book of... it has excerpts from the Journal of Torrin Hare.
Yes, in Spycrest.
In Spycrest, yes.
Which is, as you might have gathered from the excerpt, all about going on a trail, a quest, exploration of discovery with your critters.
Yes.
So in this edition, it adds a board to the bottom of the...
Yes, as a trail to the bottom of the board. The biggest board that you get, I think, as an expansion.
And it has discovery cards. So the idea is that you chart, discover, travel. Yep. So you are picking up map tokens, which have a cost on them. So it might say 2 stone, 3 berries. At the end of the game, you will have to pay that amount. So
you get to score the
4 map tiles you'll get. You have to kind of hedge your bets. What am I going to be able to pay in order to score the expedition?
Yeah, absolutely.
You go and discover big critters. So these are where the big critter meeples come in, and they're like big deer and
a wolf and some big birds.
Very
and
cool
stuff.
With their plastic saddles, which your critter will sit on top of.
Indeed.
It does something cool, so it's like an extra power.
Yeah.
And then you travel along the trail and you encounter weather. And
it's mean.
Weather is really mean. So it might say every card costs 1 more resource, or you can't buy a certain card.
Or you can't buy from the meadow, or you can't construct a basic, or you can't use the basic locations. It makes the game have so much more strategy. Yeah. It's crunchier, it's tough.
It adds the foxes. The foxes critters. We've got the collector's edition, so it also adds owls, lizards, and moles. So, I mean, there should be no arguing over who's being what, because there's such a wide range of choice.
With the collector's edition as well, there's some of the big critters that we've got are exclusive to the to that version as well. There's 3, yeah.
And you get a rabbit traveller in your colour. So, if you're the foxes, you'll get an orange rabbit traveller, and they move along the bottom of the board as you move through the seasons.
What I'm amazed by in this game, the number of critters that there are, of species of critter you can be, and the fact that they've somehow not managed to make the colours too similar. The only time that they're too similar are the cardinals, which are red, and the squirrels, which are red, but one's a gloss red and one's a matte red.
But I also think you can see the character in it.
Yeah.
Like, it's quite a simple design, but there's not one that I've looked at and thought, what's that animal?
I think turtles is the only one at a push.
The frogs are. No, the toads were super
cute. The toads
cute.
are super cute, yeah.
And the birds are quite cute.
Yeah.
And the crabs were quite cute. I like them all, but,
so Spycrest really is all about that expedition. It doesn't affect the game because it's an end of season thing, isn't it? So once you pass out of the season, then you activate your trail.
Yeah.
So it's not something it's something to think about, because you're trying to think about paying those resources at the end of the game to score those maps. But it's not something that you extra overly have to worry or be concerned about during gameplay. So it's not an extra, oh, I've done this, I've put my worker there, oh, I have to remember this board, I have to remember that board. There's nothing extra. Belfair adds an extra board with an extra location that you can put your worker, and you're limited on workers anyway. Whereas Spirecrest is just worry about it kind of as it comes to the end. The weather's going to hinder you. End of the season. The weather is going to mess you up, but that's something you can work around while you're playing.
Yes. And then New Leaf.
Yeah. So then there's Spirecrest and Pearlbrook and Belfair were the first three. They were released a while back. I can't remember exactly how long the gap has been between those three and New Leaf.
We came to Everdell quite late.
Yeah. So
we were like, we don't need Everdell.
I was never like that.
Well, you wanted it, and I was like, we don't need Everdell. What is all this fuss about? We surely don't need it.
So it's the most recent, because obviously the big box came out, and that's where, not obviously to everyone, but the big box came out, and that's where these two newest and final two expansions came. New Leaf is wicked.
So New Leaf adds a train to the right-hand side of the board. It also adds visitor cards, so you can go and get some private objectives. So it will give you 2 choices of visitor cards. You pick one and discard one. So that's quite nice. You can be working towards something. If you manage to achieve it by the end of the game, then you'll score the points, but you don't have to have it to collect it.
But there's no negative connotations if you don't score it. It's just so
it's like have a go.
Yeah.
There are 3 more spots that are like the meadow that are next to the train.
Yes.
Only they have the added bonus that once you take one of them and then apply the action of the card, you can then take a train car tile.
Yeah, so there's a train, and then there's the train like carriages with resources on, and when you take one of those cards,
so
you
it's
gain
kind
a
of
resource.
Like better than going to the meadow.
It is,
because you get a resource as well.
But it's also good to add this with this module is good because the deck has become so big. It's from 125 cards, I think, in the base game to like there must be well over 200 cards now. Be able to have an extra 3 meadow spots, like just be able to burn through that deck a bit quicker, is such a help.
So there's a really nice bag that you put the car.
There is a really nice bag.
The train car tiles in, so you can pull them and you're not cheating, which is really nice, and it's like a velour.
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah.
There are train tickets.
Train tickets are cool,
which are really cool looking. But what do they? I can't remember what they do.
They let you move a worker.
Oh yeah, so you can move a worker from a deployed location to another location, and you can do it twice in the game.
Flips over, and then you can't do that again until the summer, and then you can flip it the other way, and you can move that worker again. So it just gives you a bit more, because again, space is a premium. Moving your workers around the board is a premium. So to be able to just think at the right time to be able to move a worker to be able to get some resources to play some cards is really good.
It adds cats, bats, snails, and honeybees. So I mean, like they've thought of every critter you could possibly have in the wood, I guess.
Yeah. I would say the critters in this one
are a bit
this
big.
is where the sizing for me, like there's some really cool things, but butterflies and snails, bees are fine. To a point, but the butterflies and the snails are so big.
Bats, not butterflies.
Oh no, sorry, bats. The bats and the bees and the snails are so big. They kind of take up. They're huge, and the cats are really small.
Not as big as the big meeples.
No, but they're big. They're chunky.
They're bigger than the other one.
Yeah.
I really like the reservation tiles in this one.
Yeah.
So you get like a red kind of
wax seal.
And essentially you can then reserve a card from the meadow and you put your wax seal on top of it, and when you go to buy it, it will cost 1 less resource.
Yep.
But you can't use that token while it's on another card until you get to the end of season, and you can choose to either get rid of the card that you had reserved or keep it for the next round. But it's quite a nice way of like, oh, I really like that card, but I can't afford it right now, but I'm working towards it and I don't want you to take it, so I'm going to take it now and reserve it, which is quite nice. And then it adds 2 basic events. So one of them is Big City. You have to have 15 cards in your tableau to get that.
Yep.
So that's like an end game event that you might get. And the Scenic Flight, which is having 3 of the purple prosperity.
Yeah. So the basic events normally are like 3 of the blue, 4 of the green, 3 of the red, but this one just adds that extra thing. The cards that you get in New Leaf, I think you get the main road in New Leaf. So there are extra cards. Yeah. So
there are extra
the tableau
cards
is a 15, but the main road, you can have as many main roads as you want, so your town can get even bigger. So basically a main road will open another slot. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And then
Mistwood
brings us to Mistwood. Yeah, the new,
or
the
as
last,
you call it, Mistwood. You just like
Spider Town. We come to Spider Town.
This is the newest one for us, and we don't want to do this Everdell episode until we had tested it out.
And we tested it out.
And she is mean.
She's a bee.
She is mean.
She's not nice. She's not my friend.
You get a large night weave meeple, which is a very large spider.
Big
and then
purple spider.
She has lots of little spiders. She has more workers than you have, and they seem to multiply exponentially as you move through the game.
It's like spiders.
Essentially, it's a way of adding a 3rd player in if you're playing 2-player.
Yes.
And she basically blocks spots, and my does she block the spots.
Yep.
She's blocking them left, right, and centre.
She blocks the
meadow.
The meadow. She blocks your town. She comes into your open spaces of your town. She herself, if she's in the middle of the meadow, anything adjacent to her, to the left or right, including diagonals, you put a little spiderweb token on, and you are not allowed to buy any of those cards. So if that spider is in the middle, that gives you a choice of 2 cards from the meadow. It's mean. She's a big mean spider.
You can have it on. There's 5 levels of difficulty. We today went for 1, which was tricky. We didn't go for 0 because I thought that would just be too easy. Because we have played it a few times, but you can have it on really tricky, and she can score extra points for the things that she's getting. Like she scored, so in our game, she scored a point for every 0 point card in her town. Like, so she's scoring points where you're not scoring points, and she's crazy. She also can have a personality. So we had Nightweave the Narcissist.
Yes.
So that was why she was doing what she was doing in the meadow. She wanted to take everything for herself.
Nothing like a spider that loves the look of herself.
But there are loads of different personalities, and it just means that she does different things, basically, doesn't she?
Yeah.
So there's like the variability in playing with her is huge. But if you wanted nice, calm Everdell, don't play with her because she's nothing like that.
She's a big mean spider.
You get a 12-sided dice because if you play with New Leaf, she can also take over spaces on the train.
Yeah. So you roll basically with some of the meadow. When she goes to meadow, you roll a 9-sided dice, and that's the number of the card that she takes and she sits on. But obviously, if you've got Mistlewood, you need a 12-sided.
It's not Mistlewood.
No, Mistwood. New Leaf. If you have New Leaf, you need a badger.
It adds butterflies, pigs, stoats, and spiders, and some player powers for those.
You can play as the spiders, which I think is really cool. And the spiders have got a cool ability where you put the Nightweave, you put her on a basic location, and every time you put one of your workers on that basic location, you get an extra benefit. You get berry or something, isn't it? You get an extra benefit for every. It's just chef's kiss.
And so she basically has activity cards. That's how you're determining what she does.
Yeah.
The iconography on it for the first time we played is a little bit tricky trying to work out what she does, and it's a bit clunky, but you turn over the card. Depending on what season she's in, she has a choice of 2 actions. So if she can't do one, she does the second one. If she can't do either of those, she does a default action, and which is detailed at the bottom of the card. It tells you at the top whether it's her or a worker that's being put out. When she runs out of workers, she
ends the
season. And there's a cool thing for breaking ties. So there's at the bottom right-hand corner, there's an arrow which tells you which way she goes. So if you're unsure whether she's going to go after you or your opponent, it states that on the card. And then if you want to play solo, then you can play with some plot and plan cards. Plot cards are short-term, I think, and plan cards are long-term. So there's quite a lot of variability that you could play with, and it just adds another level of complexity to the game.
Yeah, it also comes with a couple more legends, and it comes with the extra farms.
Yeah, so you swap out the normal farms for
a basic farm that would just give you 1 food, 1 berry.
You can now choose,
but now option. It's like the different farms have different things. So it's a food or a pebble, it's a food or a resin, it's a food or wood. So there's a lot more variability in the farms.
There is,
which are cool.
Yeah,
that make me happy. So so that's Everdell and all of its additions.
Do we want to talk about which ones we like now or after we've talked about the other 2? We should have decided this before.
Probably. Let's order them now, and then we can do a Farshore and a little Everdell, and then we can
So
break.
I am quite happy just playing. Shall I go first? Sorry, I've taken over.
I've decided that you should go first.
Okay, great, excellent. Well, I was going first anyway, but Everdell, just the base game, is absolutely fine. I have no problem just playing Everdell, the base game. It's quite a nice, calm game. I like it.
Yes.
I think I like different modules. So I like the player boards of Belfair.
Yep.
I like the signs in Pearlbrook, but that's not necessarily anything to do with gameplay. My favourite, I think, has to be Spirecrest, because it does, as you said, add a level of strategy to the game, and a level of challenge, and you're having to think about what you'll have available. You can't just use all your resources, which is what you tend to do in a normal game. So I would say probably my favourite is Spirecrest. Then New Leaf, because I quite like the train and all the fancy things that come with the train. I really enjoyed Mistwood with the Nightweave, but it's a different type of game. So if I'm up for like a really crunchy kind of tricky version of Everdell, I might go for that. But most of the time I want calm, lovely Everdell. And then I think that Belfair and Pearlbrook, I can take it or leave it. Like, it's when we played the 4-player game with Pearlbrook, it was great, and it gave you extra spots to go to. 2-player, I'm not sure I'm getting all of the expansions out, so I'll pick the ones that I like the best. And Belfair, I would take a player board, but I'm not necessarily sold on the market.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
So what are you saying?
I'm saying Spirecrest, New Leaf, Mistwood, Pearlbrook, Belfair.
Okay. I think I agree for the most part. I think Spirecrest is possibly just edges New Leaf. I really honestly think play with them both together. I would 100%. I wouldn't. So an interesting thing in the New Leaf instruction manual is it says do not play with any other expansion, which is a bit strange.
Because of course you want to set up the whole board with everything.
100%. I honestly think that New Leaf adds be able to burn through the deck quicker, to be able to go to an extra space, to be able to reserve things, it adds a different dynamic to the game. And then adding Spirecrest with it, I just think works so well because Spirecrest doesn't affect gameplay because it's an after season action. And with New Leaf, you can gain more resources. So I would say I put Spirecrest and New Leaf. It's so changeable as to which I would say. I think Spirecrest just, if I'm going to go purely on, look at the big critters and the saddles and the little people sitting on, 100%. Then I would say probably, and again, then I'm going to be thinking Pearlbrook Belfair. I think we play Pearlbrook more. I think Pearlbrook is probably my third. Then I would say Belfair, because to me, I would put Belfair and Mistwood in the same category because all they are modules to an existing game. I honestly really enjoyed our game of Mistwood. I really enjoyed the spider. I cannot see where the value of actual real life monetary value, 50 quid of British, £50 sterling for Mistwood, I can't see where £50 is.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think it's still a really good addition if you are only playing it 2-player. It's really cool. So yeah, I'd probably put Mistwood and Belfair very similar in a little fight. So I'm going to cop out there.
Fair enough. I did ask on Instagram what people's favourites were. Games with Beanie and my shelf life said Pearlbrook, and Ordinary Board Gamer said Spirecrest.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think Pearlbrook is a nice kind of addition, but it's tough because.
But if you like the shiny pearls,
the addition of the pearls and the addition of like
and
those wonders can be quite nice, but they're really expensive.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's the Everdell
breakdown.
The Everdell land.
Yes.
And then they're branching out into
the edges of the map.
Yeah, the edges of the map. Can I read?
You can read.
The northern country of Farshore is a beautiful and wild place ruled by the powerful Forever Sea as it crashes endlessly against the craggy shorelines. A jade-green ocean sparkles and shimmers beneath soft blue skies streaked with white and grey clouds. Blades of pale sunlight pierce the heavens, painting the rugged cliffs and vibrant hillsides. The ever-present wind smells of the sea, but also of the diverse plant life that thrives due to the heavy rainfall and temperate climate. That is from the expedition journals of Mirror Borderwatch, daughter of famed explorer Rim Borderwatch.
Oh.
Just so you know.
So, Everdell Farshore. So, Everdell Farshore is a standalone game in the Everdell series. It is based on the edge of the map, as we said.
Mm-hmm. Instead of a tree, it has a lighthouse.
Don't talk to me about the lighthouse.
That barely fits the things on.
It also doesn't fit on the board. There's no location for it on the board.
It is, again, beautiful. The artwork is in a similar vein to Everdell. It's immersive. Like, I feel like, oh, look at that creature or that construction. That's really cool. You have boats that go around the edge of the board, and you can move them on according to cards and the windrose tiles. So you basically have 2 sets of 4 windrose tiles, A's and B's.
Yep.
And you turn over one of each, and so it might say unique red cards.
Yeah.
And then if you play a unique card, you get to move your boat 1.
Yep.
And if you play a red card, you get to move your boat 1. And as you move round, you will be collecting more points and also collecting bonuses like
Map
treasure tokens, etc.
Yeah, treasure tokens that work as a wild resource. I would say the boats, they're too big.
Well, yeah, so we've played it at 4-player, and if you're all on the same space, you have to have a big long line of boats.
Well off the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to put one of your critters in the boat. So I get it because it's the sea.
And it looks pretty.
And it looks cool. But essentially you could just move your critter round the edge of the board.
Yeah.
Like a track.
Or you could have a tile that has got a boat.
The boat is just a gimmick, basically.
Yes.
The ship, sorry. It's a ship, not a boat.
Mm.
You get metal anchor tokens, which replace the occupied tokens.
Oh yeah, which we didn't mention about New Leaf has the golden leaf tokens, but this does the same thing. So,
and instead of coins, you get shells, which equate to points, and you are collecting driftwood, seaweed, sea stones, and mushrooms. Again, beautiful.
Yep.
You know, they look like they should. The seaweed is all rubbery and hard to pick up, and
it's stuck together.
The driftwood is different to the twigs in Everdell. The mushrooms are kind of like the berries, but they're red and they look like
mushroom
mushrooms.
shaped.
You know, it's cool. You can play as crabs, beavers, puffins, or ducks. Yeah, it's the same as Everdell.
Yeah, it's tougher. Like resources are harder to come by.
Mm.
It's a lot more based on card play, so you need a few games of it to kind of learn the deck, learn what the cards do, and best use them to get your resources.
And rather than events, you're working to get map tiles,
which is cool.
And if you get so many it's like a multiplier. So if you get 4 map tokens, you're going to get. But also, the map tile you get, the top one, say if you're playing as a 2-player, is worth more than the next one down. So you're trying to get them before your partner. So
it can be a real point salad, whereas Everdell normally is quite tight on points. You can be hundreds of points in if you're doing really well on all the things.
But also the boat, if you're really far ahead on the boat, the boat, it doesn't go up in increments of 1. It goes up in, suddenly it's like 30, 36, whatever it is. Yeah.
It's there's a lot of points. There's a lot of there's a lot of
not very many spaces you can go because there's 2 island tiles. Well, in a 2-player game, there's 2 island tiles which are available, but in the summer, you turn them over like
the tide comes in, and it covers up the location.
And then you're like, well, I can't go anywhere now.
Yeah, it's really tight. It can be really, really tight. I think as well in Everdell, normal Everdell, what a strategy is if you go for the constructions, the critters will come because you get them for free. Yeah. So you go for the constructions, the critters will come, you're building out your town quite easily, quite quickly. With this, you've obviously only got 3 anchors that you can only use as your free, get your critter in. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what's best. Buy the critters because the critters seem to be really good at getting resources. Buy the constructions because they seem to be good at moving boats. It's tight.
There's been a couple of games we've played where you've got a good combo of cards. I don't believe that I've played a game where I've found the correct combination. Like you've been able to, double down on a move the boat, or give me a card and then you get to move your boat.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of cards that just give another player this and gain a point, gain this, gain that. There's a lot of that. And the other thing is there's no open spaces in each other's cities. No card. Like in base Everdell, you have an inn that if you have an inn, I can put my critter in your pub and use the benefit. Farshore doesn't have that. Yeah. It's quite a solitaire experience. The only kind of interaction is the whole, I was going to take that from not the meadow. I was going to take that from the bay, but you've taken it. Oh no, damn, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
it's really it's interesting. Do you think it has a place with base? If you own Everdell, do you think Farshore has a place in your collection? Not in yours, because it is in yours. It's here.
I like it. I don't know what it is because I haven't. I feel like I haven't figured it out yet. But I know there was a lot of people didn't like it. I feel it's I should probably put my teeth back in. I feel like it's different. It's in the Everdell location. There are some similarities, but you can't play it like you play Everdell. You have to play it differently, and I like that because essentially what the expansions of Everdell are doing are giving you lots of different ways of playing the same game, and this is just another version of playing that game, but it's slightly different, and it feels to me tighter. It feels like harder to be successful at it, and in my mind, that's what makes a great game because I want to keep going back to try to work it out.
Yeah, I think for me, people so a lot of people. There's the boats of it's just a reskin. A reskin like Ticket to Ride. No matter the map that you buy,
you can play the same.
It's Ticket to Ride.
Yeah. This
isn't Everdell. This is a different game. And there is the argument that this is a reskin, but Wormspan is not a reskin.
Mm.
Well, this is different enough. If Wormspan is different enough to be a different game to Wingspan, I would wholly argue that this is a different enough game to be different to Everdell. And I would urge people to try it maybe before you buy it, just because it's hella expensive.
But I don't think it's that
not anymore.
Now. But I think also there is a market for people who might prefer the artwork of this, like the sea creatures and.
Yeah, so the artwork on this is by Jackie Davis, who's obviously different to Andrew Bosley. But
it looks the same. But you might prefer the critters. You might prefer that watery kind of sea vibe.
I'd almost say if you're new, maybe Everdell is more tactical, and this would be a better entry point for someone who's not used to playing Everdell, because the events aren't based on. Because the event of the maps, the events aren't based on knowing your cards. You don't need Everdell will be you need the Queen and you need the Palace.
Yeah.
Whereas this is have you got 3 reds? Go here, get that token. Have you got 3 blues? Cool, go here, get that token. That kind of thing.
I do enjoy it. I think it has a place, and I think it's a different place to Everdell. But I certainly wouldn't be saying. You don't need it if you've got Everdell, because it is a different game. If you like Everdell, you might like it. But it's like saying if you like Scythe, you might like Expeditions, in my mind.
Yeah.
Because it's not the same game, and you won't get the same feel as you do with Everdell, but it's...
Yeah.
There are some mechanics that are the same, and they share some similarities.
Yeah, the base is there, but there's enough difference to keep it coming back.
Some days I want to play Everdell, and some days I want to play Farshore.
Absolutely.
And all of them are super pretty and immersive.
And then there are days where you say, I want to play my little Everdell. Are there?
Well, I don't... No, I don't think there are days where I say I want to play my little Everdell. If you've got children, if you've got children, it's a children's
I wouldn't
game.
say if you've got anyone else.
Maybe older people, or
if you've got children, or my mum.
Well, yes, essentially, people who might struggle to pick up the rules.
Yeah.
It is a good entry point to say, look, play this version of it, and then see what this does. Okay, that's similar in this game.
Yeah, have you ever try and explain the basic principles of worker placement, as simple as it is, and let people understand what the hell you mean.
Yeah, so my little Everdell has a game board and some home boards like the boards in Everdell. And you are working towards parade tokens, which are like the basic events, but you have to collect one of each kind of card, or 5
critters,
friends,
5 friends, 5 constructions. 5, yeah.
You can play as butterflies, foxes, lizards, or mice, and you are still collecting berries, twigs, and resin. Although
There's no pebbles.
No pebbles, but what we have found is it comes with some nice like crates,
wooden looking crates
that you can put these resources in for my little Everdell. So we steal them from our Everdell.
Yeah, for big Everdell.
And then we don't have that fancy box with the nice.
We don't have all the fancies, yeah.
And you roll 4 dice, and they become essentially the forest locations.
Yeah.
You can go to those spaces. Now, only one person can go to each of those spaces, or you can just go and get one resource from the generic places.
The base spaces, yeah.
So it follows the turn of you roll the dice, you gather your goodies, you take turns either placing friends or playing cards, and then you return home and you move the sun and moon along the track, and you have 4 rounds.
Yep. And you activate your green every single round, don't you?
Yeah, every single round. Yes, you do, but Craig doesn't tell you that, and then you don't remember that happens, and then he's like got 3 green cards, and he's like, oh yeah, look, I've got all these resources. Meanwhile, the 9-year-old and me are way behind. It's a good version for children, I would say, and you can make it slightly easier by adding the captain and fort cards, so they've already got some of those green resources.
Yeah, they start with resources, don't they? Yeah.
So they're already collecting those sorts of things, and it's 1 friend and 1 destruction to start with, which I really like that you can add that in. Or you could give it to, like, if we played with Corday, we could give it to her.
Yeah.
And then Alana doesn't have that extra. It's quite a nice way of just...
What I really like the rolling of the dice to randomise what those things are, those forest locations. I think that's a really cool way of just doing it. Like, just, there you go, roll the dice, these are what you get. And roll the dice, these are what you get.
Rather than lots of words, because, sometimes that can be a bit overwhelming for children to read.
Yeah.
Lots of text. It's lots of iconography, so it's like, add one of these or get one of these, So it's a good starting place.
Yeah. Sorry.
No.
Yeah. Also, the cards when you're playing them, they're not based on, like in normal Everdell, where if you're trying to play it like Everdell, then it's going to go wrong immediately, because you don't play like a building and then look for the critter for that specific building. You're not doing that.
You're just trying to collect 5 of each and a random assortment of, which I guess is what you do need to do in the proper Everdell. You do need to look for variety to try and score those. So it's sort of giving them the starting point from which to then go and play the actual version.
Yeah, perfect. I think I've changed my tune.
There is 1 flaw
quite a bit with my little Everdell. I at first I was honestly, and I even made a post last week on Instagram going, I could probably put this in my cull pile. But when we played it the other day, I was like, actually, it's not bad. It's not.
I think eventually, when the kids are playing the proper Everdell, there is no place for it.
No, other than pretty pictures.
Yeah. But, for now, it serves a purpose so that we can get them on to proper Everdell.
Yes.
There is 1 flaw with it. It is rubbish for insets. It basically is thrown in the box, and it is everywhere.
Well, it's in bags, but yes, it doesn't have an insert. But it's a thin box. It's a small box.
All over the place, which makes it difficult to set up. So anybody who would like to provide an insert.
What tiny Everdell.
But yeah, it's cool. And I like it.
Yeah, it's adorable looking. It's a good entry spot for worker placement. That is just the idea of put this here, gain this, use the things that you've just gained to spend on one of these cards that are sitting here. This is what it costs. Okay, if you buy this one, this is what it's going to do. Yeah.
And it is one of those games you can play as an adult with a child and not feel bored out of your brain.
Not completely,
because you do still have to do a little bit of thinking about which resources you're going to get.
And the order of what you're doing and things like that. It's not quite the level of. I would say the next step up is something like My Little Scythe, which has that bit more of that gathering.
But that's an episode for another day. Scythe and My Little Scythe.
Yeah, and Scythe, Rise of Fenrir,
Expeditions.
Yeah.
But
Stonemaier, that is a whole episode in itself.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah.
It's definitely an enjoyable one. I would recommend it if you have small humans. Definitely. But overall, I think nothing will replace base Everdell, really. The app for Everdell, just to mention, the app is really good as well.
It is.
It's only the base game. They haven't added any expansion and stuff to it yet, as far as I know. It's made by the same people who did the Root app, which is
and it doesn't
phenomenal.
like you leaving the app, because then you have to replay all the turns between your last turn and your next turn.
Yeah, it needs. The only thing I think it needs is like the board game arena's got a turn-based mode. I think that would be the only thing that I think could improve the app. But it gives you a really good feel for the game and how it works.
It will also highlight. It does that thing that I find annoying, but it highlights what you can
and cannot buy.
So if you're struggling with the overwhelming nature of like, but what can I do? Yeah. Then it sort of.
I like the fact that it also highlights the events. That's quite nice, because that's something I always forget to do when I'm playing. I'm like, oh, go here. Oh God, I could have gone up there and got a special event and got loads of points.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's Everdell. That's a deep dive into Everdell and all the things.
I think we have touched on everything Everdell.
We've pretty much gone through most things. There's probably more there's probably something that we haven't missed. We probably didn't really talk about the legendary critters and what they do and what they are.
Oh, wow.
And all that stuff. But got to give you guys something to look up, haven't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's been our episode on exploring Everdell. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for listening to previous episodes, and thank you very much for leaving those reviews. If you've got any ideas or anything you'd like to hear us talk about on the podcast, please let us know. Follow us on Instagram, on all those good social medias that we have, at Mrs._Get_Into_Games and Get Into Games myself. And yeah, let us know what your thoughts on Everdell are, on Farshore are, on My Little Everdell. Do you have a preference of expansions? We'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much. And remember to
get into
Everdell.
Oh, yeah.
That was good, wasn't it?
Get into
Everdell was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Get into games. It's cool. Yeah. Bye. See you later. Yeah. Have bye. Put the kettle on. All right. Bye. See ya. Bye. You hang up. No. You hang up. No, you. Okay. I'll hang up. All right. Bye.